So I don't know if would you visit the Conjuring house? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm more inclined to visit the ones that I don't believe are actually haunted or were a hoax.
Hello, my pretties, and welcome to another exciting episode of The Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about scary movies. I am your host, Matt, of course, and today we are going to look at, two paranormal investigators who you may know, Ed and Lorraine Warren, work to help a family terrorized by a dark presence in their farmhouse in 2013's The Conjuring. This is a great film. And talked about this film with me today is my friend Larissa Staszak. Larissa is here. She is a writer. She is an author from the D.C. area. She loves horror films. She loves spooky abandoned places as well. And Larissa and I had the pleasure of going, which you may have mentioned this before to everyone, of checking out the Exorcist archives at Georgetown on campus back in August. And it was amazing. I encourage you to go. So, Larissa, thank you for coming on this show. Please say hello to everybody and talk about all the scary stuff you love.
Hey, Matt. Well, thanks for having me back. That was to echo what you said. Absolutely. If you can get the chance to go see the Exorcist archives, go do it. It was, unfortunately, we couldn't take pictures inside, so which is why I recommend you go check it out for yourself.
Yes.
But yeah, it's harder to do horror stuff out and explore when it's getting cold out. So, but we'll try to find more stuff inside.
Some would say that's the best time to go, right? Because there's no one around and there's no nasty bugs, and I don't know. To each his own, I guess. But
that's true. You just have to bundle up.
That's right. That's right. And of course, if you guys remember, of course, you watched the Friday the 13th live episode back in September, and you saw Larissa on that program as well. We discussed all things Friday the 13th. That was fun to have you on there too.
This is a good time that we're recording because we just had a Friday the 13th in December here.
We just did. It was great. It was I feel like it got lost in the shuffle because it's December, though, right? I feel like it didn't have all the passion that, the charisma that it really needed to, but that's okay. Our next one isn't until June of 2025, but that's all right. We'll wait patiently. That's actually the best time because that's when the original movie is set, is June. Yes. So that's the best Friday the 13th month to have.
I'm trying to think, what's the anniversary now for that film?
Oh, man, you're making me feel
What's going to
be? I think it'll be 45, actually.
45? What if there's any good events at the original Camp Crystal Lake in Jersey?
I'll plug it again like I do all the time, crystallaketours.com. Go on the tour. I did it. It's a lot of fun. I encourage you to go. If you're a real fan, you will enjoy this 2-3 hour tour. I really had a blast. I really did. I did. But today's not Friday the 13th, so we're talking about... Now, remember out there, folks, the 3 stages of possession, of a haunting, infestation, oppression, possession. Remember those. Those are key as we dive into... anyway, 2013, The Conjuring, right? So, we start off, it's a film about... Well, we're looking at this doll, and these 3 or 4 nurses are saying they've enlisted Ed and Lorraine Warren to come help them because they have a doll who they say is possessed, and all these weird things are happening at their house and spooky stuff. And they say, well, the doll's not really haunted, but it's a portal to hold an entity to possess somebody, and they throw the doll in the garbage, and we move on to the great tagline that I love in so many films, which is, this is based on a true story, right? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on a true story. This is all based on a true story. And, well, really, actually it is, right? So we're going to investigate the story of the Perron family who buy a home in Harrisville, Rhode Island. And it's a 2-story, 3-story farmhouse, husband and wife. They have 5 daughters, I think it is. And they move in and, well, shocking, scary things start to happen. And noises and, they find a boarded up basement, right, that they just come across, and the dad goes down, it's full of junk. And here's the one part that I hate, and this seems to keep happening in these movies. I know
I'm thinking of Amityville here. I'm like, oh yeah, the boarded up room. Okay.
Yeah, the red
room,
this right?
Yeah.
Right. So the part that I hate is, it happens in all these movies, and it just is what it is the family has a dog. They have a dog, and the dog's name is Sadie. I used to have a dog named Sadie, and the dog dies, and the dog gets killed by a mysterious, and I'm like, just, you can chop up 100 humans, but just please leave the dogs and the animals alone. Just leave them alone. And that part, I hate that part. Anyway, but that's kind of part of the story, right? So the dog ends up dying, And the mother wakes up with like bruises on her arms every morning and stuff. And the clocks are stopping at 3:07 a.m., reminiscent of some other spooky story we know. But all these things start to happen. And it's kind of cliche stuff, but it's done well, right? So there are, I think, a great scene where pictures start flying off the walls, and it's like really spooky because if you're watching this movie on surround sound or anything like that, it's really kind of scary because it sounds really, really good, right? And so anyway, the Ed and Lorraine Warren are giving a lecture at a university somewhere, I guess, and I don't forget where. But the husband and wife, the Perrons, Carolyn and I forget the husband's name, they go meet up with them and say, look, our house is like jacked up. Like our house is haunted. We need you guys to come for real. And they're like, I don't know. And Lorraine is like, no, of course we'll go. So they go and they can tell things are not right. The daughters are obviously scared. Everyone's freaked out. They stay at the house and they start investigating stuff and they start finding all kinds of spooky stuff happening. And at the same time, they're kind of like living there and they're like fixing his car and they're doing all this other stuff. It's funny. And they end up finding out there was this land they live on. This woman, her name was Bathsheba, which is like a really cool spooky name, right?
Yeah.
And she ends up, I guess she sacrificed, either she or some other spirit sacrificed their like newborn daughter on the property and cursed the land, of course. It sounds so cliche again, right? But anyone that lives there has horrible accidents or they commit suicide or they die or whatever. And so they end up and the mother ends up getting totally possessed like in the basement, right? Mm-hmm. And once they find this stuff out and everyone's hiding out back at like the hotel and everything, and they decide they've gotten enough evidence from the church to finally like get this exorcism because like the Vatican needs to approve it. Like it needs to go all the way to the top. They get the approval at the very end, I guess. But at this point, they're trying to help these people out because the mother takes two of the daughters back to the house because she's going to kill them, right? She's totally whacked out. And she's completely possessed by this demon. And so Ed starts the exorcism on his own. He's doing it. And she's levitating and the chairs are flipping and then she ends up running off and getting caught in the underneath of the house. And they finally have this moment where they're holding on to her and they're going to free her finally because Lorraine starts talking about the wonderful picture they had at the time at the beach they were at. And it brings the memories back and they save her. And it's so great. And everything's happy and we're all great again. And what I loved was the very end. Oh, and of course, if you want to think, we'll talk about the Warrens here. They had a room in their house full of haunted items. And so they go back in. They had that little dollhouse, the spinning merry-go-round or something. They always take something from one of their cases, and so they put it back in their house. And the movie's about to end, and they say, "Okay, well, what's next? I don't know." Well, I just got a phone call. He says to go investigate a haunting on Long Island, and you're like, "Oh, I know where we're going now." And the movie ends, and it's great. So I like this movie. I've probably seen it now maybe 2 or 3 times, I think now probably. And okay, cliches all over the place. We mentioned them. Look, the pictures falling off the wall and the spooky sounds and the dressers and things moving. But I mean, look, that's the things that happen in these places, right? That's the stories, right? That's what is spooky. Some of the jump scares are not always there. There's that great scene I love when they're out there taking photos in the yard, and the father is out there, and he tells him, there's some spooky stuff here, and there's a guy that hung himself right where you're standing, and he's like, oh yeah, but earlier Lorraine had that vision, and she looks over and she sees Ed sitting there, and he's like, what's going on? What's wrong? And only the audience sees the feet of the woman that was hanging
behind him.
Yeah, dangling behind him. Little things like that are spooky, right? So
the one part that got me was when the mother was playing, I don't remember which daughter, they're playing the game and the clapping, and then all of a sudden the hands come out. And
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, they're playing the clap game
when I rewatched it. Mm-hmm.
That was spooky. Yes, that was good. That was good. Overall, though, I liked it. I thought it was, it's a haunted house film. We know the greatest haunted house story of all time. We'll talk about too. But I think it was well done because I like James Wan. And I want to talk about the work he's done, too. So what are your thoughts? Tell me what you think of The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. I like it as a franchise. I remember everybody talking about it when it came out. So I remember I didn't see it in theaters. I picked it up from Redbox, I think, at the time.
Oh, Redbox. There we go.
2014.
Throwback.
Yeah. I waited a year. I'm like, okay. I I don't think they really expected it to evolve the way it has. I mean, because we had the Annabelle prequel after that. Then they're like, well, we'll do a sequel. And they started doing La Llorona and all these things.
Right.
But as a franchise, it's good. I mean, the main films are based on, I believe, the books that Ed and Lorraine Warren wrote. And you can tell kind of the other spin-offs and prequels are like Hollywood making their own things for money.
Sure.
But no, they're good. I personally really like The Conjuring 2. That's my favorite one, I think, for various reasons, stylistically and creepy factors. But it's interesting, and I like how they show the real people at the end of the film, too. So it's like, okay, here's what happened to really drive home that based on a true story aspect.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. Yeah, so I think, so the story, one great scene I got to mention. Well, I can talk about that when we get to production stuff. But, so the Perron family, all that stuff about them is true. They are a family with 5 kids that lived in this house in Harrisville, Rhode Island. That is all completely true. And they said their house was all kinds of haunted. And apparently the Warrens came multiple times to kind of try to do seances and things like that to get the demon, the spirits out. And they lived there for 10 years, I think, until they finally moved out in like early 80s or something, which they said at the time, I think when they're about to go, I think they said the hauntings, well, you know, interesting coincidence, they stop when they're about to leave, whatever you want to make of that. But yeah, they lived there for a long time. Now, I do not know what happened to this family. I think one of the daughters has gone on some programs and done some things. I don't remember for sure.
I believe it's the oldest. Yeah, she's...
Andrea, does that sound right? Yeah. I've never watched any interviews with her, but I think she's done some things.
She's written some books on it, too, I guess, a trilogy. So.
Really? All right. See, I clearly need to find out more about this part of the story. So, if you want now, this is up to you. If, you know, I love to visit spooky places. We all do, right? You can go visit the Conjuring house. Okay, that house is real. It's in Harrisville, and I want to say it is. I forget the website. visittheconjuringhouse.com or something. Really, just Google it, and you can find it. And you can do overnight stays. You can just do like a B&B deal, or you can do an investigation. I think overnight too, if you want to. It is a complete moneymaker. I don't know how I feel about that kind of stuff. Right? It's, you know, you can say what you want about the people that happened, what their story is, whatever. But obviously, look, we're all out for a buck. People want to do stuff like this. I would go. I think I would. I don't know that I would do an overnight investigation. I don't know if I go that far with it, but I'd love to go, and I'd probably stay the night. Right? I would probably do that. So I don't know if would you visit the Conjuring house? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm more inclined to visit the ones that I don't believe are actually haunted or were a hoax. That one, I don't know. I'm open to the belief in ghosts, and my grandparents supposedly had a haunted house, so that's a whole other story. But so
I gotta hear
supposedly
the story
been to them.
Day, yes.
But I'd have to hear if other people had experiences in that house before I decide to overnight there. It would be cool to visit though, but.
Yeah, I think definitely visiting it. You know, if nothing else, you get to at least go. You know, I don't know. We have to look at that and see if you can just go and just tour the house, right? Or do you have to do like an overnight thing? How does that work? I don't really know. But that would be fun to do, I think. And of course, so one thing I love too about the Warrens. Now this is a deal you cannot do anymore. They had a museum, a Warrens occult museum. I think it was in Connecticut where they lived. They both passed away. But all that stuff you saw in the film The Conjuring, the Annabelle doll, and all those items, those were like real items. That was a room in their house, and they made a museum with it.
Right, the Raggedy Ann doll for the Annabelle. Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing about Annabelle. Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll. It's not this China
creepy
doll, whatever it looks like in the movie. Right. It's a rag. I've seen a picture of it, and it's like supposedly seriously like do not touch. Like it is this supposedly horribly haunted item. But I would love to go to this museum, but I don't think it's.
I think it's
open.
Still there, but it's
Right?
it's not open. I think by the time I don't know if it was when Lorraine died or when the movies became famous that everyone started to go and see it, and then the neighbors, of course, were like, "Get off our property! Stop this! We're trying to get home and get our groceries." And because it became a nuance, they eventually had to shut it down.
Oh, really?
But I believe it's still there. So.
Interesting. I know there's like a Warren's Perron thing that you can go.
They bring the doll. I'm like, I won't cry. I don't know about if the doll's really haunted, but I won't cross that line.
I want to see it. I want to see it. I obviously would not touch it, and I wouldn't take my picture with it. But I would like to stand next to it and see it. I would. It needs to stay in the case though, like for real.
Yeah.
I don't want that thing near me. Like Ouija boards. There's like certain things that I'm just not gonna mess with, man. Nah. So yeah, that Annabelle doll is some spooky stuff. But yeah, I would love to go see their place. But all right, production stuff wise. So okay, so the house in the film looks nothing like the real house. The actual house is this farmhouse. It's like a 1-story rambler, right? It has like the wooden siding on it. Mm-hmm. And the movie, you know what the house in the movie reminds me of?
What?
I Know What You Did Last Summer house that she lives in. With her face, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character lives in.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that since high school, so that's been about 20 years. I don't remember what the house looks like, but I remember they live near a beach. I remember that.
We like to date ourselves on this show sometimes and say how old we are. It's okay. Yeah. Don't feel bad. Yeah, that's what reminded me. But of course, that house obviously looks so much spookier. I don't know that the Warrens, the real house that parents live is kind of creepy looking. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But anyway. You take liberties because they wanted that cool tree and everything. So they shot most of it, I think, in Wilmington, in North Carolina, and some soundstage stuff. But I think they did a good job with the period piece because this is set in the 70s, right? The clothing is pretty good, I think. They do a good job. And I love bringing in the old cameras that they shoot the footage with, the old equipment. That was really awesome. I like that a lot. That's cool because you know a guy like James Wan. I want to talk about him too. He's a great filmmaker, I think, and so he wanted to show off that stuff and keep it, period accurate, right? So I like that a lot. What did you think?
I was going to say, I think it was the second film when it's obviously the 70s, 80s. They have the big cameras, and then Ed's carrying one. He goes, and the new one. He goes, "Oh, it's so light." Yes. I was like, okay, a little bit of humor. This is great.
I love that line because it's this giant RCA camera. Yes, that is a great line. Good call. Oh, that's good. Yeah, so I think they did a good job with it. I think you can shout out to Onset Cinema, Myers, I guess, if you're familiar with them on Instagram. This guy Kenny's doing great stuff where he's doing these great he'll screen films at the locations where they were. Okay. And I think they've done an Onset Cinema in Wilmington at the house. I don't know. Or maybe the Perrons, but I don't know. We have to find that out. We have to do some research on that one. But as far as production-wise, I thought it looked really good. It sounded really good. Sound design was cool. Like I said, the stuff flying off the wall and having surround sound is a really cool way to listen to this, to watch that. I enjoyed that. But what do you want? Do you want to go into anything else? You want to stay on the original, or do you want to jump into Conjuring Universe?
Ooh, let's jump into Conjuring Universe. Unless there's anything you want to bring up on the original.
No, I think I'm good. I'll probably remember stuff as we go along, possibly. But
okay.
Give me let's jump into Conjuring because how many films are in Conjuring Universe?
Is it 8 now? I know they just finished. They finished filming, or at least Vera Farmiga finished filming for the last one in the main franchise. She just finished.
All right, so you like part 2 a lot, right?
I do, yes.
Okay. All right. So I love Amityville. Anyone that knows this program knows we love Amityville. You all know that. And we're not talking about the show itself. We're talking about something else, and we go on a tangent. The tangent is Amityville. So, but the way that part 2 starts, where she's doing the seance and the shot zooms back out through the windows, the eye windows that you see, the Amityville windows that comes out, and then like I think talk us through that scene where she's reliving that when DeFeo's killing his family.
I thought stylistically that was really interesting and unique because I don't want to give away too many spoilers. But
no,
that's
our
not
show
really
is
a
nothing
spoiler.
but spoilers.
Okay,
yes.
that movie's from 2017. You should see it by now.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you see it with kind of her in the vision, so it's her as the shooter, and she has this invisible gun, and she's going to the rooms, and it was just so different.
And she sees Ronnie when he's there, and she's cocking the shot. Yes.
Yeah. I could go on about some other stylistic scenes, but if you want to,
I want you to go
talk
on about stylistic scenes. We're on part 2. We'll go from there. Yes, please.
Okay. I'm sure we'll go back to talking about Amityville later in this.
Yeah.
But the scene where they're interviewing the little girl with the cup with the water in her mouth, so she can't speak, and then it slowly fades, and you can see a man behind, and it fades back, and he's gone. I thought that scene also was very well done.
And just so everyone who's listening knows, so part 2, Conjuring 2, is about the Enfield Poltergeist, and this was a story that was set in England, and Ed and Lorraine went over to England to investigate this story. Anyway, continue, please. Yes, I just wanted to set the scene there.
So it was the man who had died in his armchair. There, you kind of see him in the background.
What was his name?
Fades
Bill,
back.
right? Bill, is that
Bill
the guy?
something? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that movie. It was stylistic, like I said, it was good, and I loved. They made that look perfectly England too, right? The neighborhoods with the houses, and it's kind of dreary, and it's kind of, it's set in the 70s, and the house is all grungy, and that was good. Now James Wan, I think he
did that one, yeah.
Yeah, he directed the first two.
Although Conjuring 2 is the third film of the franchise, though. Not to be confusing. But
this is like these Star Wars universes now.
Exactly, and jumping back and forth.
Back and forth. So then what came after? Okay, so The Nun is technically the first film, right?
It's probably the oldest.
Because of
one in the
chronologically,
timeline,
right? Timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that's like set in the 50s in Romania. So The Nun is not great, but I've been to Transylvania, and it's an amazing place, and I love anything Romania-based, so I love that they really shot that film there. That, to me, was so awesome. So I loved that. I thought that was very cool. Did you see The Nun? Have you seen that?
I did. I need to rewatch the second one because they're bringing the sister, the nun, into the next movie for the main franchise. Okay. So Thaisa Farmiga.
Yeah.
But yes, no.
Who's in, of course, her of American Horror Story fame, right? Wasn't she in all those seasons? Yeah.
The Nun, it wasn't my favorite, but that was kind of interesting, the scene where all the bells start ringing in the graves and you don't know which one where the person's stuck. So it had its moments, but I couldn't really connect with the characters as much. I feel like Ed and Lorraine Warren, well, I love that they their outfits match. If you look, like his tie will match her skirt and like things like that. So
Isn't that good?
There's a bit more of a connection, I feel like, with Ed and Lorraine as opposed to some of these other spin-off characters where like, oh, okay.
Oh, I know one great scene that we got to talk about in the original. I caught this when I saw it, and hopefully anyone that knows, anyone that follows this stuff, knows who Ed and Lorraine, knows what they look like. They know them, right? So a lot of people never heard of them, but if you paid attention, there's that scene where Ed and Lorraine, the actor and actress who are playing, Patrick Wilson and Vera, are playing them, and they're giving a lecture
at the university.
There's that quick shot that pans over the audience. Lorraine Warren is in the audience.
I love that. I love that they got her for that.
And it's this quick, like 4-second shot. That's all it is, but it's her. And you're like, oh my God, that's her. So she was part of this. She was in the original, and she worked extensively, I think, with Vera Farmiga. And I think they met, and they really got to know each other. Because I think Lorraine was probably in her 70s or 80s at the time. She sadly passed away just recently. She was in her 90, maybe? She was up there. So they got to meet and really get to work together and kind of go over all this stuff, which was awesome. I mean, that would be amazing to get to meet her and to do those things. So to have her in there was so cool. I think that's so great. And then what did you think the first time you saw the nun in the hallway of their house with the daughter, and she just walks down the hall?
That was creepy. Yeah. That was The Conjuring too. Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, so many people like that creepy nun Valak character, and that's why we're getting all these spin-off prequels. But no, that was good. So
that was good, wasn't it? Just standing down the hall, this tall, like super lanky,
imposing,
horrifyingly look. Because when Ed's painting, then he's like, "Oh, I had this thing stuck in my mind." And you're like, "Holy crap, dude!
What goes through your mind?" Well, doesn't it jump out of the painting later in the film? It was just.
I don't remember.
I think it does. Yeah.
Pulls like a ring, and she climbs out of the screen or something like that.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Man, yeah, that like imagery, that kind of stuff is yeah. All right, so you got the nuns. Okay, let's stay on track here. We're getting lost. Okay, in movie order though. We'll do movie, right? So it's Conjuring 2, Nun. What else? What came after? I can't remember right now. Do we need to look this up?
Yeah, might want to look that up. Let's see. Conjuring
Universe. Now, what's the most recent? Well, I don't want to. We'll lose our.
The most recent was The Nun 2.
Nun 2. Okay. I have not. So I will admit I have not seen all of these films. I'm sad to say. All right, so you got Conjuring 2. Then Conjuring films, you got Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It, which is 2021. Now, have you seen this?
I have. I've seen all the ones in the franchise.
Okay, I have not seen that.
I thought it was okay. It wasn't done by James Wan.
No. So he's producer, I believe, he is the producer on every single one of these films. So he is involved in all of these. But directing, no, he did not do that. He didn't do that one.
That one was more recent. Well, obviously more recent, because I think the case didn't really take place in the late 80s, but then the film was set in the early 80s. I think they kind of adjusted the schedule. What the real dates. But
I think so. Yeah. So that one I need to watch. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down for you?
Thumbs middle.
No, okay, thumbs middle.
It was more of a thumbs up.
Okay. One thumb up, one thumb down.
I think Annabelle and La Llorona were the weakest in the series.
Seems like that seems to be yeah. So you know what? I think I'll stand corrected, because actually, Annabelle came after the original Conjuring. Now I saw it. I don't think I loved it. I think it was a little bit silly. Wasn't there scenes with some guy with her in the car driving and all this havoc happens or something? Wasn't there some crazy scene like that? I just couldn't get into that. Do you remember?
I don't. I know I like the other Annabelle films more as they went along.
Okay.
They seem to be kind of trying to go off the first one, like that with the lovey-dovey couple, but I just couldn't relate to it. I'm like, oh, this is more of the same in the first Annabelle. But have you seen the other Annabelle films?
No. So I saw, like I said, I saw the first one. It was weird. It was just bizarre. It was this doll that was like just taking over. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I didn't hate it. That was interesting. Okay, but talk to us about then. Have you seen all the Annabelles then?
Yeah, the second one was decent creation,
talk about
but
those.
I like the third one. I actually went out and bought that one on DVD. Annabelle Comes Home, because they bring back Ed and Lorraine Warren as minor characters.
Oh, interesting.
So in the beginning and end, and it was actually there was more comedy in that one for some reason.
Okay.
I haven't read any of the books by the real Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I guess there was one book about a werewolf that they encountered.
Oh, I'm a big werewolf fan.
They bring a werewolf into the Annabelle. Sorry, my cat's laying on the keyboard and making sounds.
Hey, we love other guests on this program. It's okay.
But yeah, they have a werewolf creature in Annabelle Comes Home, because it's a bunch of different artifacts that come to life in their museum. That's what that one's about.
Okay, now I am a huge werewolf fan, so I'm going to need to watch this film sooner rather than later at this point. Okay,
I recommend that one. That was good.
Now we're talking. All right, so Conjuring 2, and okay, Nun, Annabelle. All right, of all of these three series, if you want to call them inside of the universe, so Annabelle films are your favorite, or Conjurings are your favorite?
Oh, the Conjurings would be my favorite.
Okay,
yeah, more the continuity.
Okay.
Continuity, yeah.
Continuity, yes, okay. So, Ed and Lorraine Warren are the stars of these films, okay? I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga do a pretty good job. Thoughts on them? You think they do pretty well as them?
I think they do. Apparently, they're really good friends in real life, and that chemistry you can see it on the set. I think they do I can't talk today. They do a good job. So.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, and I guess they also had the... So first Conjuring, as far as that cast goes, like Ron Livingston, I mean, everyone loves Ron Livingston, of course, from Office Space, obviously, right? Because he's just the greatest character ever. So you're going to go to work? No, I don't think I'm really going to do that anymore. I mean, that movie is amazing. That's another podcast for that film, I'm sure. But in this film, he's kind of just like the dad, though, right? He doesn't really do a whole lot. He's just like, I'm just kind of hanging out here. I thought, what's-her-face that plays the mother, Carolyn.
Lily Taylor.
Yeah, she's good, right?
She is. I remember her from, well, I know, not The Haunting, the one that everybody hated with Liam Neeson. And
oh, that movie was terrible, yes.
She was in that, and I remember her from 6 Feet Under, which isn't horror. But
was she on 6 Feet Under? On HBO?
She was,
I never saw it, okay. Yeah, she's good, and I think the daughters all, I think they're fine. They're one of the daughters is the girl
from Twilight.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay,
but
there was one from one of the Twilight films.
She's the daughter, or she's the kid, I don't know, that lives in the prison in Dark Knight, right? That escapes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? The finally gets out. Remember when Bruce Wayne is stuck in there and he tries to escape and they say only one child ever escaped? She's the child that escaped. And I think she's in that awful like White House Down movie or something like that. I can't remember her name. But she's one of the daughters, I believe, right? So she's in it. And yeah, they're fine. Like I said, I think the Warrens, I think they play it well. And I think you get to know the cast. I think you get to meet them a little bit. So they're not just like these random people that get killed off or we don't care about them. We have like, we get to meet them and we have some sort of attachment with them kind of thing.
How they interact.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, going off of that, one of the actresses who played, I don't know which one, but one of the daughters in the first Conjuring, I guess she started having this mysterious illness while they were filming. And I don't know if it was bruises, but she got really sick and while she was filming on location. And then once filming wrapped, she was totally fine.
Huh.
So that's definitely something to look into.
Right.
But the cast was having paranormal experiences while on set.
I love stories like that. We love on-set spooky stories. Those are great. Okay, the Warrens. You got info on the Warrens? You want to talk about the Warrens?
Oh, let's see. There was a good documentary on them. I watched it on Max. It's called Devil's Road: The True Story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. That was pretty good. It talks about how they met, their some of the earlier hauntings that haven't been made into film that they've done. That one's a good one. Have you seen that one, Matt?
What is it called? Sorry.
Devil's Road: The True Story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Is it
multi episodes?
Just one episode.
I feel like I seen it, but I think I saw it on like History Channel or something once, like years ago. I can't remember for sure. You said there was another one you watched too, wasn't there? That was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a documentary, but how was it pronounced? Enfield?
Enfield.
The Enfield Haunting. That was a really good British miniseries. I believe it's on Tubi. You can tell it was lower budget. Like there's a scene where the furniture is shaking and I'm just kind of sitting there laughing. But they do a couple good parts. There's like a Viewmaster scene and then like the person and it moves. And it's not Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I forget the name of the character. The character was in The Conjuring 2, and it's played by the guy who played Peter Pettigrew in Harry Potter. But that one's pretty good.
Okay.
Couple good jump scares. It's another iteration of The Haunting.
What about, have you read any books by either one of them or about them?
The closest I've gotten was I finally read the Amityville horror last year. And Ed and Lorraine Warren are mentioned in that. It's not a first edition, but it's a special edition from the year it came out. So someone was selling it for like $5. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll buy that.
Jay Anson, right? Yeah.
Yes, Jay Anson.
But we're back to Amityville, of course. Did you like the book? Did it scare you? Did you think it was good?
It didn't scare me. I'm one of those people that was kind of like, I really don't think it's haunted at all. I mean, nobody else has experienced anything while living there. The pictures I've seen, though, the house looks beautiful. I mean, how would you like to have your own car? It was like a carport with the boat. I'm like, that's beautiful.
They got a boathouse.
I'd live in that house, and those demons would have to put up with me.
I always joked with the idea that I said I'd buy the house, and to pay my mortgage, once a month I'd have a party on a Saturday, and I'd charge people, and I'd make my mortgage money right then and there. You know how many people you get to come to your house? Easy.
Well, I heard that there was someone who lived there had a yard sale, and they let people come in. One of the owners, they're like, yeah,
really?
just don't go into these certain rooms or touch our stuff. But I guess people went nuts for that.
I would really like to. Friend of the show, Blaine Duncan, of course we love on this show, who's Amityville expert, has been in the house, and
nice.
People have. I've done a lot of bucket list things in my life, and a lot of them have been checked, thankfully. But that I think is one. I really would love to, even just step on the property. Right, I'd like to at least just walk up the driveway, maybe walk around the house. But getting in would be amazing. Oh.
Now you've visited Amityville. Did you just
multiple times?
You've just driven by the house. Is that
driven by? I'll get out and I'll be the gawker across the street. I will say this, and I will say like on every episode I do about it. Do not step on their property, okay? There is a serious security system on there. Your picture is being taken. Your video is being recorded. And just the fact that do not step on people's property. Do not. Mm-hmm. If you guys want to go and see the house, go see the house. I walked around like an idiot before taking photos. I'm the guy that does that. please respect their property. Do not step on these people's property, okay? Stand across the street at the intersection house and just mind your own damn business and take photos and be on your way. But yeah, that's what I've done a couple times. So it's a beautiful neighborhood. It's a beautiful house. I wouldn't live there. I wouldn't, I would get so tired of the idiots like me, but I don't know. And again, like you said, people say nothing's happened to them since, so that's kind of part of it too. But we also, the big theory too is that, George and Kathy Lutz brought this with them, and it was attached to them, and therefore it wasn't the house at all. But anyway, but Ed and Lorraine Warren, for those that aren't, they are paranormal demonologists. Lorraine was a clairvoyant, right? She could see things. She was a psychic, I guess. They were around they died back in, so Lorraine died, I want to say recently. We have to look that up.
I think it was 2006 for Ed, and then 2019 for Lorraine.
Yes.
I remember when Lorraine died, because it's my brother and I watch the Conjuring films together. Whenever a new one comes out, that's our thing. I get to my younger brother, we go to the movies and see it. So I remember when she died, I get a text from my brother, and it was on, it was actually Good Friday. Friday, she died, and my brother texted me. He goes, "She's gonna rise in 3 days." So,
oh my God!
That's what I remember about her death. Not to make light of it or anything, but
no.
It's interesting that she died on a religious holiday, considering how religious they were. I always thought that was
So he was 79. She was 92. 92.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. So they, they're the ones that kind of brought this stuff. So when you watch these ghost hunters shows and things like that, I think if you enjoy those, you owe a thank you to Ed and Lorraine Warren for that stuff, because they really kind of brought this stuff, to the public, to the mainstream, I think, really. So
I believe the society they started for ghost hunters or whatever, I forget the official name, it's still around.
Yeah. So all that stuff, I think you owe them kind of a debt for that. So that's pretty cool. So Conjuring Universe and Ed and Lorraine. Okay, a couple things I want to talk about. I want to give a shout to my and everyone's friend on this show, one of the original co-hosts, Tara Garwood. She is doing something amazing right now. I'm super proud of her, and I'm happy. She's working with, is it Carrie? I forget. I'm sorry. I'm going to totally butcher this. What I'm going to look at here from The Conjuring is, let's look at the original film here. She is working with the two gentlemen that wrote this script, and I'm going to get their names right because I'm going to screw this up. Of course, I'm sorry. Chad and Carrie Hayes, who wrote the script, two brothers. They had a great setup going where they were auditioning folks for their writing workshop. She won that. She's involved in that. She's doing that right now with them, and they're helping her write her script right now. So, Tara, we love you. This is so awesome. I'm super happy this is happening, and the script you're going to write is going to be great, and it's going to be a great film, and I can't wait to see this. So, love to you. Shout out to, of course, for that. And super cool to be working with them because they wrote the script for this. That's just awesome. But James Wan, right? Mm-hmm. He's made
modern classic, yes.
Right? So I feel like in the conversation of like directors and what's happening now, like it's Eli Roth for me still like at the top, and now we have like James Wan and with Mike Flanagan doing stuff, right? You got these, there's more, but he's in that list right now of like who's who, right? I mean, he did Saw. He and Lee Wanell, and Saw is, you can say what you want about the 85 sequels, but the original Saw is awesome. That movie got me so bad the first time I saw it at the end. I said, oh, how did I not see this? But he did that. He's the producer on all of these Conjuring Universe. He's directed 2 of them. He did one of the Fast and the Furious, I think, also, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Why not? Those are great. Those are fun to watch.
I love that you look at his filmography. It's like horror, Fast and the Furious, horror, Aquaman. So
Aquaman, right. So he's an Australian director. He's been doing stuff for a while now, and I think he's doing a great job. I think his stuff is really good. Now you can say it's oversaturated and these Conjuring movies are no good and they're not scary. Whatever. I think he's doing a great job, and I think he's overseeing it. I think he created a universe. For goodness sake here, right? That's pretty awesome.
Oh, The Conjuring's like the MCU of horror. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive. So I think that's pretty awesome. I'm curious now. So what is next? I haven't heard yet of what's coming. You said they were shooting or wrapping something?
Yeah, not James Wan, but I know they were they're finishing Conjuring 4, Last Rites.
Ooh.
So I'm guessing it's the last one in the franchise.
Okay, well,
so.
You know how that goes.
Okay, last one in the main franchise. We'll probably be getting prequels and
we'll get more
spin-offs for years to come.
If you so haunted stuff, stories. If you were making a Conjuring, what would you want to see? What would you want to see the subject be for the next one?
I am not as familiar with some of their other stories. I know the Smurl case hasn't been investigated.
I've heard of this.
There was a movie for that one in 1991 made for TV. I think it was called The Haunted.
Oh, I remember that.
It's not that great, but
no,
yeah.
but that was like terrifying when you were like 12 years old or whatever. Yes.
And then the Haunting in Connecticut, that was Ed and Lorraine case. So I've seen rumors online saying that might be the one they go for next. But
did you see that Haunting in Connecticut? Did you see that?
I did. It didn't really leave too much of an impact on me. I mean, it was creepy that this family moved into an old funeral home.
Right. That's spooky.
And they found she was cleaning the sink or doing something, and she found pictures of the dead. She's like, "What is this?" So I mean, that was a little creepy, but
that's definitely scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what case. You know what I'd like to see. Well, I don't know if you
not
could.
The werewolf one. Please don't say the werewolf one.
Well, I love my werewolves, but no. I think if I were to pick a case to discuss, why don't we talk about the story of I can't remember the name of the family, but the story in Kansas in cold blood that happened back in the 50s. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with that one. What's that?
All right, so there was this is true crime stuff. This is one of the more famous, I think, true crime stories.
Okay.
The book it was a story of a family that was murdered in Kansas, and Truman Capote, of course, wrote the novel, and it is the story of the Clutter family. That's it, and they lived in Kansas, Holcomb, Kansas. Two ex-convicts were out in prison, I guess, and they went in and they murdered this whole family in Kansas. And yeah, Truman Capote wrote the book. It's been a bestseller forever and ever. But that would be an interesting story to see somebody do a film and investigate. They may have made a film about the book, but I would like to see this as a case. I don't know if there's a haunted aspect. I've never actually heard that part of it, so I don't really know. But that would be something I would like to see maybe more of. That might be interesting, I think. So, Interesting. I don't know.
I'll have to look that one up.
All right, so here's your question, right? If you could be any of the characters of any of these films, who are you in one of these films? Who do you relate to? Who would you be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I wouldn't want to be in any of those situations, either being haunted or going after them.
I know.
The ghosts. I don't really have an answer for that.
All right.
I guess I look up to Lorraine, both Ed and Lorraine, for what they do, because they're putting themselves in danger with that.
Yeah.
I had the heart attack, and spoiler alert for the third one, while they were in the case.
That's what we're all about.
But it's it's interesting seeing how their faith drives them, and they want to help people, and they're not getting money from this.
Right.
So that's interesting.
Do you know they show their daughter in the film that they have more kids? Are their kids doing anything to carry this on, or they completely live in different lives? Ed and Lorraine.
I believe they only had one kid. I think it was Julie.
Yeah, they show her in the movie.
Or Judy, sorry.
Does she do anything related to carrying on their work at all, or is she not involved in that?
I don't know. I know she did an interview for one of the movies where she was talking about the Annabelle doll, but I'm not sure how involved she is with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look that up. I think about that.
I mean, this makes sense, but I believe Judy and her husband are the ones that are in charge of the Annabelle doll right now.
Oh.
The real one. No.
Someone's got to be in charge of that awful, horrible thing, right? Glad it's not me. So, ugh. All right, here's your other question. Now, if you say to someone, if you like this film, then you'll like, you fill in the blank.
Should I say the Amityville horror?
I mean, yeah, you say whatever you want. It makes sense, right?
Let's see. There aren't too many. I mean, I like the romance. I mean, there's kind of the Ed and Lorraine romance. And you really don't see much of haunted house romance or horror romance out there.
There's a new genre, haunted house romance. You got it.
Yes.
I love it.
Haunted house movies in general, I would recommend maybe The Shining. That's such a classic.
So I want to touch on that real quick. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Give us some haunted house movie recommendations.
Okay. the Netflix version of The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan. Absolutely love that. You know,
I
you're
have
crying
not-
or you're screaming. It's
I have
great.
not seen this, but yeah, it's supposed to be great, right?
It is. They hide people, ghosts throughout the show, and if you happen to see them in a corner, then it's really creepy. Stylistically,
Mike Flanagan,
aspects,
there you go,
it's
right?
great. Mike Flanagan.
There you go. The Shining, right?
See. The Shining, yes. The Others, it's not scary nonstop, but it's the parts that are scary are creepy, and there's of course that twist ending, and it's Nicole Kidman. You can't go wrong with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
I personally love the Grudge franchise and Ju-on.
Okay.
I have a lot of the DVDs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's there's ones you can't even get anymore that I have.
Nice.
The original Ju-on from the theatrical version, because it was made for TV. The first two were made for TV. Then they remade them for theaters in Japan, and then America started catching on. Ju-on White Ghost is really creepy.
Okay.
I had nightmares before and after I watched that, because they had the ghosts with black eyes.
Oh, man.
I don't know if you can get your hands on a physical copy anymore, but it should be on like maybe Tubi or Shudder or something.
Okay. That's awesome.
That one's creepy. And then 13 Ghosts is kind of a fun one.
Ugh.
For Haunted House Rex.
They play it all the time. I think it's gotten more popularity over the years, but I can't.
They're supposed to be making a show about it, and I guess
really?
each episode will be the one of the ghosts. Yeah, how they caught him. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
All
right.
Oh, and the 1977 movie House from Japan.
Okay.
That is
yeah,
so
I've
crazy.
Heard of
it's
this,
fun.
and I have not. Yeah, people say it's great though, right?
It is. It's just so random.
I gotta see this movie.
There's a guy that turns into bananas at the end. Like, it makes no sense.
All right, so we should be. Well, the moral of the story is we should be watching more Japanese haunted house movies. Like, sounds
yes.
like, huh?
I mean,
Okay.
Ju-on is just flat out creepy, and then House is just like, we're gonna make this as random as possible.
Bonkers.
But it's gonna be haunted. So, yeah,
Wow.
bonkers.
But it's gonna be haunted. Okay, awesome. Yeah, haunted house stuff is a lot of fun. It's really cool. It's spooky. Did you ever watch a show that used to be on TV called Hauntings? It was on like I remember I used to watch like late night on like Fox or something.
I did not.
Oh,
but,
it was so good. I gotta look it up. I'll see if I can find it. We link it to everybody. If anyone's seen that, remembers that show? I think it was called Hauntings, and it would show these. It was like an unsolved mysteries kind of themed show, something like that. Oh man, it used to give me the creeps. I used to love it. One haunted house that I love, not a movie, but if you guys watch Tales from the Crypt, the TV show, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. They did an episode once about a haunted house group, and it was this TV crew that goes into a haunted house to go do a live broadcast, and it all goes haywire. I actually won't spoil this. You should watch it. I forget what I cannot remember the name of the episode, but look it up. It is awesome. It is spooky. I loved that show. That was such a great show. But that's Tales from the Crypt is for another day. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, not a show, but I just remembered Grave Encounters. Did you ever see that one?
It sounds
I think
familiar.
it's a Canadian film.
Okay.
It's found footage. Despite what I've done with the Blair Witch Project, I have a hard time with shaky cam. But this one was doable. But it's basically this camera crew that goes in. They're kind of filming a haunted show, and then they get stuck, and then all the ghosts and demons come out, and they all have those, again with the creepy black eyes, and they're just getting attacked by the ghosts. It's good. And then the sequel is a little self-aware. They're like, yeah, the reason this is a real film because nobody knows who the actors are,
Yeah.
Because it was like this no-name company that did it. But it's a good one. I would recommend that. It's really good jump scares.
Okay. Well, last one I'll throw in The Entity. It's not necessarily a haunted house movie per se. It's more about her, but that's a pretty spooky film too.
I haven't seen that. That's an older one, correct?
Barbara Hershey, back in the 80s, maybe early, or maybe even late 70s. Yeah. Good
Okay.
movie. And of course, we did Poltergeist. You all should listen to our episode on Poltergeist. Great haunted house movie. But anyway, so yeah. Ooh, all right. We've given you guys a lot of things to read, to watch. We've filled you with plenty to do to keep yourselves occupied. We like The Conjuring. We like the Conjuring Universe. I have to watch the rest of them. There's a werewolf in one of them that I need to see clearly, obviously. But so, Larissa, this is a wonderful hour that I have enjoyed with you. But before we go, I want you to tell everybody what more you've worked on, where they can find you and keep up with you, and where they can find and all the stuff that you've written and done like that as well.
All right. Well, I've written 2 books so far that have been published. Anthology of the Abandoned, which is a bunch of short horror stories, and A Christmas Campaign, which is a fantasy non-horror book. There's some more books on the way, hoping to have a few published in 2025. I also wrote a Blair Witch story for Lionsgate. It's on the Dorian app.
I read it. I watched it. I loved it.
Okay. It was required that it had to have a love story to it, which is the last thing I expected for the Blair Witch, but I wanted to do something with Lionsgate, so why not?
Yeah. Well, we all love the Blair Witch, so there you go. It fits.
But yes, you can buy my books on Amazon, and then you can find me usually on Instagram, so the Midnight Creative 05, or if you like toy photography, the Digital Toy Box.
Boom. So, go to Amazon, buy her books. Commerce, people. Let's go.
Thank you.
Well, all right, Conjuring. Awesome. Thank you, guys. This is great. We love it. And haunted house stuff. If you want to hear more haunted house, you know what to do. You guys know. Email us at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. I want to hear about all your ideas, haunted house movies, what else we should be talking about. And you know where to find us. Instagram is the place to be at The Scary Movie Project. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, Larissa. And until next time, if you don't get it, you don't get
it. Thanks for having me, Matt.
The Scary Movie Project podcast. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.